everyone, and welcome to this podcast, The Hidden P&L of Fashion, Inventory Decisions That Make or Break Margins. Usually, when we think about fashions, we think about new trends, cool collections, or fun marketing campaigns. But there's a lot of happening behind the scenes. Behind every product that you see are a series of important business decisions. How much should we produce? When should we reorder? When should we put a product on sale? And how much of these decisions should be driven by AI versus human judgment? In today's episode, we're going to talk about what really goes on behind the scenes and how these everyday buying decisions affect profits, margins, and cash flows. I'm joined today by Subrat Singh, AVP of Buying and Merchandising at Bewakoof.com, a brand that has built a loyal following through its bold designs and customer-first innovation. So today we'll talk about the inventory planning, forecasting, AI, and how smart buying decisions help a fashion brand grow. Welcome to the podcast, Subra. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Aman, for having me here.
So before we jump into the inventory and numbers, I'd love to know a little bit about your journey. You've spent a large part of your career in buying and merchandising. So what first drew you to this field and what keeps you excited about it even today?
So it was never my childhood dream to land into this industry. Uh, I've seen people around me dress up, and within the group, the taste and the preferences and the buying habits. So I was observing people around me, which drew curiosity, like how
Okay.
people are making their buying decisions. And this curiosity, this understanding of consumer behavior, this just grew over me. And that is how I chose this industry to be. And what a great industry wherein you get a combination of creativity as well as data analytics. One side you are figuring out your fabrics, your colors, your trends, and how to dress up the consumer in the next coming few months and weeks. And at the same time, you're looking at dashboards. This is my inventory, this is my sales. You're responding to working capital, you're responding to finance. So it's like a business, you're owning the business. So that is how I chose this industry. And what keeps me excited is this industry never bores you. The customer is always evolving. Every
Mm.
5 years, the moment you see, okay, this is a consumer pattern which has been with, in the past we used to see historical data, and you see, okay, this is how the consumer buying habits has been. The consumer gets evolved, and again there are some changes in the industry. So this industry is all, it always keeps you curious, and it just gets me going.
Okay, I'd like to hold you on the evolving customers, needs because that's something we plan to cover today. But looking back, what's the biggest change you've seen in merchandising over the last decade? Since you've been there.
I think in the last decade, I've been in this industry over 2 decades now, and there are a lot of changes, right? From how we used to see the historical data to make our buying decisions versus how we are taking bets basis data driven insights backed by AI. Then how we were making decisions based on historical data for pan India, and now it has gone into micro segments.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are a couple of more changes also, but I think these two are the biggest changes wherein every industry, every company is more following and continuously evolving over.
Okay. Thanks for sharing your perspective here. So let's start with an inventory. Most people think of, sorry for that. Most people think of inventory as products sitting in the warehouse, but I'm guessing that's not how someone in your role sees it. So how do you look at inventory? Is it just a stock or is it actually one of the biggest drivers of profitability?
It's definitely not an inventory sitting idle in the warehouse,
Mhm.
but it is one of the biggest levers which drives business. Inventory in the warehouse is like a borrowed loan from the finance. Faster you sell, faster your loan is get repaid, and at a cheaper rate. So that is how we look at the inventory. Again, there are two angles to it. One, from the revenue point of view, the faster the inventory, in more inventory turns, more profits, the working capital is in balance. And at the same time, from the customer angle, if the customer walks into the store and if they don't get your inventory, then there's a disappointment. So there's a loss of the customer, and there is a word of mouth which gets spread. Okay, I don't get merchandise, I don't get my size in the store. So you are losing your customers. So customer retention is very expensive. So there needs to be a balance inventory based on your demand and the consumer preferences.
You know what? That's a great way to put it through, because it matches with what we've seen across the industry. And for us, inventory is just isn't about just making some sure products available. It's about making smart trade-offs every day. So when I look at inventory, top benefits that come to my mind with the right inventory is it helps improve margins, as you rightly said, keeps customer happy, frees up cash to invest elsewhere in the business. So, and we've seen that leading retailers are putting much more focus on getting those decisions right, which brings me to another interesting point, Surya, is in fashion, there are really two expensive mistakes. You could either buy too much or end up discounting, or you could buy too little and miss out on sales. Which one hurts the business more today, and why?
I don't think there's a simple answer to it. Both have consequences if you buy less or you overstock the inventory. If you overstock the inventory, your working capital gets blocked, and then you land up liquidating your inventory. It hurts the profitability, it questions your decision making. At the same time, if you understock, again, there are consequences of opportunity loss in the market. The best way is to buy the right assortment for the right market at the right price, offering the right pricing to the customer. I think that is what helps in balancing the inventory. Earlier the industry was buying based on 6 months. They were looking at the 6 months calendar. Today, the industry buys in monthly drops. So I think the industry has become smart and everybody is balancing their workflow capital.
Okay. So you mentioned making smarter, I would say, data-driven bets, but
Yeah.
that really starts with understanding demand. But in today's world, customer preferences can change incredibly fast, and tends to appear and disappear almost overnight. So how do you forecast demand in a market that's constantly evolving?
Right. Uh, so what I've seen is in earlier the demand forecast was based on historical data. Okay, this sold, and this is how you bet on because we have a history of what the consumer is buying. And as I said, the consumer is always evolving. So the history, looking at the history is one part, but today we look at many other external factors, wherein we observe consumer behavior continuously. We look at the search trend, what is there on the in the market. We and the buying also get influenced by a lot of influencing influencers on the net. Then there are cultural events which is happening, but at the same time, we also look at which demand to pick. What is the shelf life of that event? What is the shelf life of that influencer or a celebrity who's wearing those clothes? So, what is the shelf life of that particular demand? And at the same time, it is also important that all the cross functions are in synchronized with each other. We may buy it, but if the inventory doesn't kick in on time, the event has died and then it's a dead inventory.
Yes.
And I think thanks to all the department and technology and AI, the departments are synchronized, wherein one information flows very freely to other department, and the inventory comes on time. So I think the industry has taken smarter decisions based on buying less inventory as per the demands and not buying for the whole 6 months.
So if I want to just probably put it, it would be a continuous process, right?
Yeah.
So, and I feel that the goal isn't necessarily to forecast perfectly anymore. What we feel it's to shorten the time between spotting and change in demand and acting upon it. You raised a very valid point about technology and AI, and technology has given retailers access to more data than ever before. But what we feel is having more data isn't the real advantage. The real advantage comes from knowing which signals matter, like you rightly said, and turning those insights into faster, more confident decisions. So Great to hear that. And next area that I like to understand from you is trends. And we've seen that a product can suddenly go viral and sell out within days, and a week later, everyone has moved on. Something you highlighted as well. So, how has that changed the way you plan inventory and make buying decisions?
Um, we buy in lesser volumes. I
Okay.
think that's a smarter way to do it. You buy as per trading weeks and not as for forever inventory. You don't see a very long term gain because the market is changing in hours.
Hmm.
And if you sit and buy for, okay, I'll buy for 2 months, I'll buy for 3 months, wherein the market is changing overnight, you'll end up in a lot of inventory. So what we do is we buy in lesser volumes, and if it is selling based on the losses, we keep replenishing the product. And the losses are never same. Sometime it goes up, sometime it goes down. So it is the smarter decision which helps in taking the smarter decision which we take is that we continuously observe a data, how the market is reacting towards the trend, how the market is reacting towards the demand, and then accordingly we refill the stocks.
Okay. And we've talked about forecasting demand and responding to changing trends. Uh, that naturally brings us to the people making those decisions every day. So, and how technology is changing the way they work. So, for us, one question that has been there, that buying has traditionally been an art, something which has been driven by experience and instinct. But today, the way we see is data is part of almost every decisions. So, how has the role of a fashion buyer evolved over the years?
Buying is always an art. It's just that earlier it was based on historical data,
Okay.
and today it is backed by data driven decisions, and all thanks to AI technologies and innovation which keeps happening in the industry. Earlier, we would take a lot of time to make the data. Today, the AI helps in making the data and give us the surface insights. The team, what it does is based on the insights, they make the decisions, because AI can help you provide the insights and data basis what inputs you have given to the system. But there are a lot of blind spots which AI will not be able to tell you. So I think that there where how it helps us is we make the decisions basis what we see and what human instinct helps us.
Okay. So clearly, buying today is much more dynamic than it used to be, right?
Yeah.
So, um, sticking to the AI topic, there's everybody's talking about AI today, but beyond the buzzwords. So, where has AI actually made the biggest difference in your merchandising process? If you could probably, some maybe some example you could share with us.
Sure. AI helps us to shorten the work processes which we used to take a lot of time in making the data in spreadsheets versus the dashboards. So AI
Okay.
helps in making the dashboards quickly, wherein we used to take a lot of time in making the spreadsheets and pivoting the data and figuring out, okay, what has happened, what has not happened. It gives us insights basis that. And also AI has not just helped our department, but it also helps making the buy decisions, wherein you buy the range, and then we it helps us to see how it will look in the store.
Okay.
It synchronizes the inventory together, the color, the themes, and it also helps in taking the assortment planning decisions, wherein as I said that the customer behavior is not constant throughout the country. Two people in the same house, they don't have the same taste, and wherein we are making decisions based on a larger group across the country. So we look at the micro segments, and the AI helps us to analyze what is selling in which part of the city, which part of the state. And accordingly, we group it together. Okay, what is selling in similar patterns and what is different? What may sell in north may not be selling in south. What is selling in east may not be selling in west. And it's just not about the numbers, it is not just about the product, but it is the attributes related to the products which helps us analyze, which was taking a lot of time when you sit and do manually. and AI just gives you a dashboard. It tells you, okay, this is selling in this part of the city, this part of the country, which helps you make smarter decisions. It also tells you where to bet heavily and where you should go slow, which helps in optimizing the inventory and also the cash flow.
Okay. And with even with all of this technology, where do you think the human touch still matters the most?
With technology, it will tell you, okay, this has sold, this is not sold. You should bet, this part is selling, so you bet more. This part is not selling, you bet less. But when the inventory, the product, or the decision goes wrong, because buying is a bet. You make a bet on what will a consumer buy in coming few months or few weeks, but it will not tell you why the product failed. The human instinct is required to understand why the product failed. Maybe the fabric was a problem, the fit was a problem, the attributes related to the product was a problem. So human instinct is required. Then there are trends in the market wherein it keeps evolving, and human instinct is required to understand the shelf life of that trend, the demand of that product, whether it will stay for a month, whether it will stay for a 6 months, and then buy accordingly. So the AI will help you make decisions, but it will not replace you, because human instinct is always required to take smarter decisions which are hidden in the blind spots.
Right. And interesting point that you made is that data can tell you what the customers probably bought, but they don't know what they will be in the coming time. And the way I see is the real opportunity is for AI to reduce the uncertainty while leaving the final commercial judgment to the people. People who really want to buy. Uh, so this is interesting discussion, we've had about AI and the buying decisions and now, but I like to keep the AI theme going on with something a little lighter. I'm going to throw a few questions at you. Just let me know what first answer comes to your mind. And just a spoiler alert, they are all AI related. So
Okay.
first one is AI or human instinct.
Human instincts backed by AI decisions.
Okay. One dashboard you can't live without.
Oh, that's a forever. Sales and inventory dashboard.
Okay.
That's a lifeline.
Okay. And one technology every merchandiser should master.
I think generative AI with data analytics, because you need to keep upgraded along with the what is coming in the market, and that is how you make your decisions, smarter decisions.
Okay. And finally, a slight bit of tongue twister. Will AI replace buyers or will buyers who use AI replace who don't?
I think buyers who use AI will survive,
Hmm.
because, as I said, you need to keep always upgraded with the technology, because you need to move along with the market. If you don't upgrade yourself, definitely you'll get replaced, because everybody will be looking at how efficiently your work is. If you're not efficient, you're not productive, you'll get replaced.
Okay. Thanks for that quick rapid fire. So I just wanted to zoom out for an individual decisions and look at a bigger picture now. So every product starts as an idea and goes through planning, buying, reaches the customer, and eventually turns into revenue. So if you look at the entire journey, where do you think the most value is created and where is the most value lost?
I think planning is the stage where the most value is created, because, and it is in every stage, and it's a continuous process. It's not just that once you made a plan it becomes a bible.
Right.
You plan a roadmap. Okay, this is where you want to go, this is how you want to go, and you need to continuously review that roadmap and keep changing, keep reviewing, keep evaluating whether the decisions you made while planning the strategy, is it right? Does it need any discussion? Does it need any changes? It's a continuous process. That is, I think, the place where you make most of the value, right from making planning or how much inventory you need, what inventory you need, what in what volume you need, and how the inventory should be priced. I think the Peter Drucker's 4 stages of peace: product, pricing, place, promotion, that is always there. So that it really helps in planning it. And I think everybody does that. You need to continuously review your planning, what you have, the calls which you have taken while buying the inventory. Yeah.
Okay. And something you've already covered a little bit, but when something isn't selling, how do you decide whether to hold it, replenish it, or mark it down? What's the call here?
Yeah. So, jumping straight into markdowns is never the call.
Okay.
First, you've bought that inventory with certain logics. First, we need to analyze why it did not sell, and there could be many attributes related to it, not just markdowns. Okay, we bought it. Customer may have not liked it, but the answer is very important to make the next buying call. Ki why they did not sell? Why the customer did not like it? Maybe the product was not visible enough. The customer did not knew that you launched it. There we take decisions, and with every discovery you need to improve. One needs to improve. One is visibility. Second, maybe the product what you launch online versus for offline consumer goes and sees the product. Online, maybe the customer is the product is not what as seen what you bought it.
Okay.
Then it would be pricing related also. Maybe the customer is not able to relate to the pricing which you have listed, which you have bought it. That is one of it. Then other product and other attribute would be, again there would be some fit issue, some fabric issue. The customer is trying but it is not buying. We have made the decision, okay, it's a wow product because it's a baby, but the final result, the final success is when the customer buys it. So we look at all the angles when relating to what decisions we had taken while buying the product, whether it is fabric, whether is that a right fabric for the right season. For example, a fleece may not sell in summers.
Right.
uh, uh, Flimsy fabric may not sell in winters, right? So is it the right fabric? Is it the right color? Summers we need brighter colors. Is it the have you launched too much of darker color, darker palette? Sometime we buyers mostly gets carried away. Okay, black is selling. Let's buy black.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the black is selling, but colors are important. If your
Yeah.
store looks like a dark store, customer may not enter. You
Right.
all There always needs to be balancing about colors and themes, what is there in the market. So all those decisions helps us to analyze why the product then sell, and it helps us to continuously improve our next buys. And if in the season, if you have made that changes, whether the fit, the fabric, the visibility, and we try to optimize the sales, and discount will be the last thing which we would do, because that will directly impact our margins.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel this highlights a much bigger shift in retail. Uh, we feel that success today isn't about getting every product right, and as you know, you can't do that probably. It's about building a setup that can learn and adapt quickly. Like you rightly talked about different stages that you could probably go before really going down to a markdown. So the faster the teams recognize what's working, what's not, and act on these insights, we feel that the stronger the business performs. Before we wrap up, we've covered inventory, forecasting, AI, and entire product journey. I'd like to close with one final question that brings all the ideas together. So, imagine when a consumer looks at a T-shirt, they simply see a product with a price tag. But when you look at it, at the same T-shirt, you probably see months of forecasting, supply negotiations, inventory risk, working capital, and margin decisions. So, what's one thing about fashion merchandising that you wish more people, including investors, understood?
Think when it comes to our role, most people think it's a very glorious role, or you have the veto power, you are making the buying decision.
Mhm.
But what they don't see, the underlying statement is that we are by managing risk by
Correct.
understanding the consumers. Merchandising is an art wherein you manage risk based on the decisions which you make, and the consumer will be buying in coming weeks or in coming months, right? And I believe a buyer or a merchandiser, a consumer is a buying a product, but a buyer or merchandiser is buying the possibility of making that customer buy the product, converting into profitability.
Okay, and that's a great way to wrap up with your perspective. And it clearly comes out. is that behind every product is a series of smart decisions. So thank you so much, Shubhra, for sharing your insights and giving us behind the scenes look at how modern fashion retails really work. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and got a better understanding of how retailers make decisions around inventory, merchandising, and technology. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Umang, for having me.
Thank you.